housing coordinator position in Johnson County was started by the Board of County Commissioners after a significant amount of study. The position was really created to have a staff person to sort of work on big policy ideas and think about how investments can be strategic to make sure that they're achieving their housing goals. The cost of housing in general just keeps going up. The Kansas City area has seen some of the largest increases in rents across the nation, and we need to think as a community how we address some of that, because folks at the very bottom of the income levels are being pushed up into units that they can't afford and then out of the housing market altogether. So the problem isn't unique. These rising costs aren't unique to renters. We see the same sorts of challenges in the home ownership market. One of the things that I'm excited to work on the next year is different kinds of housing. So, we talk about this missing middle with housing, or just different types of housing that we don't have a lot of in this market, and sort of thinking about how to provide different options.
Pathways at Heritage Park is an amazing project that will help us to create affordable housing here in Johnson County. We're really excited to be partnering with the Pathway Christian Church. They had land, and so we partner with them to acquire the land, and we'll be building 14 single-family homes. We will be building the homes over the next 2 years, and we'll partner with families. We identify individuals who are income eligible for these houses, and we do that through a vetting process. All of them are required to do their sweat equity and their financial education. These are families who are either spending more than 50% of their monthly income on rent, or are living in situations that are just not healthy or sustainable for their families. 1 in 10 families in Kansas is currently spending more than 50% of their monthly income on housing, and that is even higher here in Johnson County. There are so many families that are in need of affordable housing, especially affordable homeownership, and so this project is really one of a kind and will allow us to create affordable housing and to start making progress toward affordable housing in Johnson County.
The Landlord Incentive Pilot Program is a program that offers landlords financial incentives to accept families that have housing choice vouchers, emergency housing vouchers, or permanent supportive housing vouchers. It started because families with housing vouchers were having a hard time utilizing them in the Johnson County housing market. Many landlords in the competitive rental markets, they don't have a need, or it may not make business sense to work with a housing choice voucher program because they're filling their units extremely quickly. When landlords accept families that have housing choice vouchers or emergency housing vouchers or permanent supportive housing vouchers, they will receive a sign-on bonus as compensation for their time and efforts, as well as access to a damage reimbursement fund.
I think they took a lot of what our concerns were as landlords and put those into practice, and the two main concerns were the time and the inspection period and the learning curve of going into the program. Right now it's very easy to have a property rented in Johnson County, and so if you're going to be delayed at all, or if there's some kind of extra effort, having that incentive is very nice to help with that.
The eviction mediation program was born out of a brainstorming session with multiple community partners, in which the goal was to reduce the number of eviction judgments on records. So we started a pilot program in September, with the goal being that at the end of the mediation there would be options presented that, if met by the tenants, would lead to the case being dismissed. An eviction judgment can stay on a rental history for 7 years. And so when you're applying for housing and they run your rental history, they're going to see that you had a prior eviction. And that can cause someone to not be able to find stable housing in the future. Generally, what a mediated agreement looks like is that the tenant is given until a certain date to reach a certain number of conditions to avoid the eviction judgment. Finding that most of the cases are able to be mediated is sort of goal one. Let's make sure that we can come up with a different plan besides simply doing a default eviction judgment. Step 2 is making sure that the tenants are agreeing to something that they're able to meet, so they're agreeing to conditions that they can actually complete, so that the final judgment still isn't on their record.
People ask me a lot about, what do we do about housing? And there's not one solution.
Like there just isn't one solution. It's a lot of solutions. It's such a good model for the county to be using when they think about how are we going to address these issues, because it doesn't just look at one end of that continuum. It really thinks about all of the steps along the continuum.